Salutations and greetings to all of my global people out there. I am Alicia Moore, licensed massage therapist and advanced neuromuscular massage therapist, who also is a brand partner with a company called LifeWave. And I'll be talking about LifeWave a little bit further kind of in this series. I want to first start with the main objective, which is to let's understand pain, and let's also work on being more curious and open to technology that can actually help today, right? And not months from now with a hope, but with something that is more solid. So let's jump in. Okay, so I did a live yesterday on August 1st, but for whatever reason, YouTube was like buffering my stream, and like I really could only get to about 30 minutes of what I was talking about. So I wanted to do like a recap and kind of do a whole video and just upload it so that the entire message can come through. And so yeah, so this series that I'm going to be doing, I would say kind of like leading up to the webinar, I want everybody to have like a foundational understanding so that, you know, I don't have to go into a lot of depth in what we're actually dealing with. So the focus of my, you know, what I'm kind of sharing and shedding light on is sciatica pain, okay? And with sciatica pain, I see so much of it, and it's always kind of like mixed and mingled with other things, but the primary concern that a lot of people come into my office for is regarding their sciatic pain. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that people self-diagnose. They will, you know, either hear it from friends that have the symptoms of sciatica, and they're like, oh man, well that must be what I have because I have those same or similar symptoms. And then there's others that may like go and do their research online, and so they're like, you know, looking for information on like how to help sciatica and things of that nature. And instead of like actually being diagnosed, because there is an actual diagnosis, a lot of times it'll come from if you have anything going on with your vertebrae. So the vertebrae, if you're not familiar with anatomy, the vertebrae are the bones that make up your spine. And so, you know, within that, there's a certain way that it is structured. And if any part of that structure is damaged, is compromised in some way, whether it's like posture, whether it's from an accident, whether it's from an injury or something that has damaged, you know, parts of the spinal bones, then generally you're going to get something of a diagnosis, you know, along with that. It may also be diagnosed if you're reporting to your doctor that you have a lot of pain in the hip, because it does run down in that direction. And the main reason is because of the sciatic nerve. And what is the sciatic nerve? So the sciatic nerve is the nerve that is responsible for helping your brain to communicate with the lower body. And so when they're along that chain of the nerve, if there's damage, then the signal, you know, the electrical impulses are not making it from neuron to neuron. And so being a neuromuscular therapist, I have to really be mindful of that, because working in that area, for one, it's a small area. For two, there's a lot of different like connection points and ligaments, you know, and you know, helping to be able to determine between bone and like a muscle that's really tight. Guys, sometimes muscles feel like bone, and when they're that hard, then there's definitely some type of congestion or something going on in the area. And with pain, and we'll go ahead and jump into, I have some notes here so I don't, you know, go off on a tangent, because I will and can do that. But yeah, looking at pain, because pain is such a complex and multifaceted experience, because it is an experience. Like, it just involves so many things. It involves our senses, it involves our emotions, it involves our cognitive dimensions. Like, we'll get into it. I do have it written down here, but you know, there is something with psychological pain that people experience, okay, for example. So let's first go over the types of pain. So there are acute pain, there's chronic pain, there's nociceptive pain, there's neuropathic pain, and there's psychogenetic pain, okay? And acute pain is something that happened, like stubbing your toe, slamming your finger, or smashing your finger, or, you know, tripping and, you know, kind of tumbling a little bit. It's something that is right now in the moment, and it usually doesn't last any longer than a few days, if that. A lot of times it'll go away, by the end of the day. But if you fall, I would say wait till the day or two after, because that's actually when you're going to feel the pain. You'll feel, sore or whatnot. And yeah, so typically it just doesn't last. Now, when it starts to get past a month, to 2 months to 3 months, then, that's something to kind of watch out for. And that's what kind of leads us into chronic pain, because chronic pain is what, basically it's where it's going on for longer than 6 months. Like, the person has had whatever happened. And it is interesting because sometimes it doesn't have to be this major accident. It could have been just, sleeping wrong or something, or, things like that, sleeping on an uncomfortable surface, tripping and falling. And, initially nothing was wrong, but then 6 months later, you're still having some issues and symptoms going on. Then that's when a clinician will be like, okay, definitely chronic pain. And examples can be something like arthritis, back pain, migraines, and fibromyalgia. And then we're going to start going kind of, I would say, deeper within, because there's nociceptive pain, and then there's neuropathic pain. And with the nociceptive pain, that's like skin damage, that's inflammation. So like, if you sprain the ankle, the pain from the swelling, and from the fluid of the lymphatic system, it'll be a certain type of pain as well. And then arthritis can kind of fall into this as well, especially if there is like loss of cartilage or loss of any of the connective parts, the cushion. I don't really want to call them cushions, but kind of cushions, basically. Like in the knee is a really good example. The wrist, as well. Sometimes people can get bone spurs, in different places. And that's because the cells aren't really doing their job in a sense. And so when there's the damage, but it's like, it takes a long time, right, to heal, then that's when it can start to turn into and be a dysfunction of that area. And we start to look deeper at the neurons. So neuropathic pain, the pain that's actually connected to, the actual signals in the nervous system. And it's basically a disrupted or an abnormal signal, by the brain and the nerves. There isn't really a good connection or communication between them. And this can look like diabetic neuropathy, sciatica, and phantom limb pain. And then we get into psychogenetic pain, which is pain that is connected more to psychological factors rather than physical. And this is like something I actually just went through. It's the emotional mental stress influencing the perception of pain. And it can look different ways. Okay. And for example, this is pain that would be associated with depression. This would be pain that's associated with anxiety, for example. Okay, so now we've looked at types of pain. Okay, we have acute, chronic, nociceptive, pathogenic, and psychogenetic. Now we're gonna look at the mechanisms. And this is basically like their location, like where, like what they're doing and things like that. So there's transduction, transmission, perception, and modulation. Transduction is the process of conversion of a noxious stimulus, so something like heat or chemicals, into an electrical signal by the nociceptors. And so again, the nociceptors are on the skin, the muscles, and the internal organs. So when you go by a flame and you're too close, that burn feeling, okay, or chemicals that are too strong, you may not even really feel them, but you may use a chemical and then you see like, oh man, like it kind of ate into your skin, and it'll be irritated. Okay, that's what that one is talking about. And then there's transmission of pain, and this is the process of sending the electrical signal from the site of the injury to the spinal cord and brain. And so when there's pain in an area, how long does it take to get to the brain, right? Like how long? And that's why I said, like, if you have a slip or fall, like you're probably, I mean, unless you really like fell, you're not really gonna feel it until like the next day, more than likely, or even the day after, is when the pain would kind of set in. And that's kind of because the body has to kind of collect where it's funny when you think about it, but the body has to like collect where the pain is at and then send it to the brain. But then like, what if the connection points are not up to par? Like, what if they're not really sending the signal like they should? Then the brain's only going to get some of the message, so to say. Like, think about the classroom game telephone. You know, by the time what I said gets to, you know, I would say even the fifth person, but like, I know there's usually like 10 people or something, but like around the fifth person, the message is probably going to be different as it goes down the line. And so when people come in and I'm starting to work with them, they're like, man, I didn't realize it hurt there. I didn't realize it hurt there. And so I'm like, for me, the body looks like a map. So I, you know, follow the map basically. And so as I'm working, I bring awareness to that they have had pain here in this area. And so helping to turn on or, you know, encourage the correct communication between the brain and the nerves and the spinal cord. And then there's the perception of pain. And this is just the interpretation of the pain signal by the brain. So when the pain signal actually makes it to the brain, like, what message did it get? You know, and like, because you have to imagine the brain is controlling a lot. So like, if it's getting a message, like the message needs to be clear. It doesn't need to be like some half wave of what's going on in the foot, like, or the knee, the left knee, something's going on, but it doesn't really know exactly because part of the signal didn't quite make it. And so that's, you know, a lot of what I work with is like helping people's muscles and the nerves that are attached to those muscles to start to clear the communication to the brain, so that when they are in movement, when they are in action, they have better control of their body because the brain is actually communicating with that area. Okay, and then modulation, so modification of the pain signal by the nervous system. Again, how is the message actually making it? Is the full message actually making it to the brain, right? And depending on whatever endorphins were released or whatever chemical or not chemical but electrical signal that is flowing between the neurons, like this message should be the same as it's crossing each one. And if it comes to one where it's not, the message may just die there, and the message may not make it to the brain, which happens a lot actually, because that's where the mystery pains kind of come from. Okay, so when you come in for a session, especially if you're coming in to get resolution around pain, help with basically getting out of pain, okay? We're not going to make this complicated. There's going to be a pain assessment. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this pain scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being the worst, 0 being no pain, and then 10 being the worst. Like, when I ask that, I feel it's very blanket. I'm not going to lie. I'd rather just ask the person, you know, how has it been since they have last seen me, and that actually gives me a better gauge than the whole like 0 to 10. But you know, the industry, that's what they use, and there's different variations of it. There's the self-report scales, which are, like I said, the 0 no pain to 10, which is the worst pain. And then there's other ones that are kind of in that same numerical, but they'll have like more description to them about the intensity of the pain. And then there's behavioral observation, which I have learned just by watching the adults in my life, like looking at their facial expression, their body movements, and their vocalization. As I've gotten older, like I have honed in on that more, especially now that I really work with people one-on-one, and like looking at, you know, when I first meet them, how do they get up out of the chair? How are they walking? You know, how are they sounding as we're talking and discussing? What are their, not, I guess you could say, what are their mannerisms, or kind of like, what is their, you know, where is their face? Do they have do they have the face of pain? Because I've seen that face a lot, like people walking around, because their body is in pain, like their facial expression, they might look mean, they might look grumpy, and a lot of times it's because they are in pain. Like, it's not you, it's not really anything else, but the pain in their body is creating this distortion of their face. And then their body movement, people move so gingerly, like that's how I can tell. That's why I said I like kind of observe, like, how are they getting out of the chair, how are they getting up. I'm looking, you know, I'm not like staring at them like I'm not staring at them creepy like that, but I am looking at, like, okay, how are they walking, trying to look at their gait. A lot of people's gait is very like shuffle walk, and then also as we're conversating, you know, it's very interesting because the whole idea of like eye contact, like I've been working on that, like making eye contact when you talk with somebody, and noticing like are they actually connecting with me, as we're about to go into this session, and things like that. And then the next would be the physiological measure. And I would say the physiological measures are more like at the hospital, what they equate or check and use for pain assessment. Things like checking your heart rate, checking your blood pressure, checking your cortisol levels and things like that, because they do change in response to pain. And so that's how they can kind of tell where you're at with pain. And so my kind of understanding with the whole like medications thing, when they see these numbers at like certain levels, the medications are supposed to come and help those levels to not be so high, which is great. The one thing though that I think people don't think about is that you're like, they're not supposed to be long term. Like they're supposed to help in the moment to help like get you back into like the healthy ranges, but then there is homework for you to do to be able to like get yourself naturally, like get your body naturally doing that. And unfortunately, people stay on them a long time. And then next is the pain management. Now there's different styles of pain management. I was just talking about, prescription drugs. There's also over-the-counter drugs and medication that a person can avail themselves to. And the next one would be kind of the non-pharmacological, things like starting exercising. It doesn't even have to be a lot. Just walking, but walking with a purpose. Like, even if it's like, how some neighborhoods there's like it's not this long block, like it might just be like a little sidewalk, of a couple of houses or whatever. Like if that's all you can walk in comfort, then start doing that, like exercising, stretches. I would like to kind of talk about stretches. There has been like an uprising in these places that stretch you, which is really great. And I feel like it is necessary. I am a massage therapist that stretches her clients because a lot of times, I've been working on an area, getting it, but then it's time to mobilize it before the client gets off the table. That really helps. And there is one training I am looking at for stretching that I think would be really good, but that's going to be down the line. I'm really still focusing on massage and things like that right now. But and then like massage, manual therapy to relieve pain. And because there's so many different ways pain can be interpreted, sometimes you don't need a deep tissue massage. Sometimes you do need more of a therapeutically relaxing massage, because the nervous system, because there's so much going on, and like helping the nervous system overall helps it's like this domino effect. And so just getting a regular massage is funny, because I'll get people on my table and they'll be like, I don't like light touch. I'd rather have like deep, deep, I want to feel it. And I'm like, okay. And I do explain to them, I'm like, well, in the beginning, I have to put lotion on you. Like, I'm not going to just go like breaking out the elbow and like digging in with the elbow right off of the bat. Like, I do need to like warm the tissue up, get lotion. Like, let me get some lubrication. Let me actually feel, because I have to feel, I prefer to feel what's going on. So that way, then I know where to put my elbow, right? Like, I'm not just like in there guessing. And so a lot of times, like, even, because one thing I learned, even the lightest touch has the greatest benefit. And sometimes it is at the skin level, and people don't realize that at their skin is where they're feeling pain. Maybe they're feeling their dermatones. I don't have my dermatone chart up yet, but I might add it like right in there. Let's see. And then, and then the third one, injections like corticosteroids, epidurals, and then even surgical interventions. So procedures to correct underlying causes of pain. Those typically are things like when they go in and they'll put metal plates in people's spine to help create stability, in their low back, in their neck. I was working with this one veteran in San Francisco, and he had, I think he said he had 8 back surgeries. And I'm sitting there like, what? Like, why so many surgeries? Like, wait, why? Like, that was like the biggest thing. And I guess like whoever initially did it didn't do things right, and like it just kind of went down this like very interesting path of like keep getting surgeries to fix the last surgery. And man, the scar tissue in his back was, he had a lot. I'm glad I learned Graston technique, which is the scraping. I'm sure you've seen it online. There's some popular chiropractors that really scrape. They really, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna so yeah, so it's scraping. And so a lot of times how I use scraping is fascia. So I like to help loosen the fascia over the muscly area that I'll be working. I don't like to go too deep because you can actually, like, too much bruising isn't that great. And you know, a lot of people are on so many medications. A lot of people have not really, they don't really detox like that. And so when you break that stuff up, like if they're not really detoxing, if they're not really hydrating, like their lymphatic system's still not gonna like move that out of their body. So that's one thing too, guys. Like, hydrate with water inside your body. Hydrate with fruit juice, like cold pressed fruit juices, cold pressed juices, also like vegetable juices are really good for hydration in your body. It's so much more readily accessible to your body in that form. But yes, so we will conclude here. I am actually wearing one of the patches. I wanted to wear one tonight. Well, I usually wear it each day anyway, but I usually wear it in the back. But I wanted to wear it here so that you can see what it looked like. And I also wanted to kind of talk about, before I go, I wanted to talk a little bit about Silent Night. Let me get it. So for those that, okay, let me start here. So I would get sleep, but I was starting to feel like I wasn't getting restful sleep. Like, I would literally be sleeping like 6-7 hours, you know. I mean, sometimes I would get up early, but either way, like, I didn't feel rested. And I was like, man, when I got my kit, I decided to order Silent Lights. I was kind of thinking about people that I know, like in my circle, that could use these. So I was like, let me try them out on myself first, because I kind of like have that going on too. So let me try them out, and then that way I can like speak to it. I feel like people want to know your experience. And so Silent Nights, like, I get very restful sleep. I wore them for a week and I noticed a huge difference. And then I was like, let me, you know, and then I wore them, and then I didn't, and then I wore them kind of like every other night. I kind of like, you know, didn't wear them every night, still really get sleep. And so, I really am liking these products. The one I have on right now is actually X39. If I can get it in the camera there. And so this is the one that I'll really be talking about in the upcoming webinar, because it has to do with phototherapy, activating stem cells with a non-transdermal patch. And so we'll talk more about that coming up, and I will check you guys out later. Like I said, I want to go live each day. I feel more comfortable on YouTube, and so that's why I'm kind of shooting these for that channel. And then, I mean, I can upload it anywhere, but yeah, I just wanted to do this, because yesterday, I don't know what was going on. YouTube was like buffering and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully I can get that figured out and actually get live one of these days. But I will check you guys next time. You guys have a good evening. Wholeness, balance, vibrations to you.